Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and in our top stories today from the New York Post, here's why Donald Trump's Truth Social app isn't on Google Play Store. Former President Donald Trump's social media platform Truth Social has not yet been approved for distribution on Alphabet Google's Play Store due to insufficient content moderation, according to a Google spokesman on Tuesday. The delay marks a setback for the app, which launched in the Apple App Store on February 21st. Android phones comprise about 40% of the U.S. smartphone market. Without the Google and Apple stores, there is no easy way for most smartphone users to download Truth Social, unless you go to Truth Social itself and then download it from there. But, of course, guys, as we have talked about now for at least 4 years, Google has always worked kind of against President Trump, designing and modifying its AI and its search engines to perhaps not bring up as much of positive news on Donald Trump, and even suppressing that of Hillary Clinton. So we go way back on all this story. So if you have been a subscriber here on the channel and or a viewer for quite some time, this will be very familiar territory, because we go back to August the 2nd of 2019 from the Daily Caller. Former Google engineer Kevin Cernicki says Google will try to prevent Trump from being reelected. Of course, this is someone who is in the know there in Silicon Valley, worked there with Google, or at least in San Francisco, I should say. Former Google engineer Kevin Cernicki told Fox News host Tucker Carlson that his former employer will work to prevent President Donald Trump from being reelected. Now, this isn't anything surprising to any of us. If you have been a member here on the BuzWeaver channel, you know that we keep you on the cutting edge of societal evolution. We take the difficult, we take the complicated, we take the confusing, we take the tumult, and we make it very simple. Now, a few days later, the mainstream legacy media picked this up. And of course, in their typical standard language, you see they start off with ex-Google engineer claims biased employees really want Trump to lose in 2020. Of course, they always have to use X, as we often mention, because of the connotation. Say a former Google engineer claimed the Silicon Valley tech giant has very biased people running every level of the company who are going all in to ensure President Donald Trump doesn't win election in 2020. Now, this is no particular mystery. We have actually touched on this topic and talked about it, particularly from this story here from CNBC. Trump, without evidence, accuses Google of illegally swinging election against him in 2020. Now, this goes back to August the 6th. Now, of course, just like using the word X and, of course, unnamed sources, which are very familiar, that we talk about here, that are familiar with the language they use in framing, and, of course, their next favorite, without evidence. We see here, this is Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. President Donald Trump criticized Google on Tuesday morning, insinuating that the tech company may be working against his re-election campaign, and saying, we are watching Google very closely. Now, there is no mystery here. You guys know we've covered this very topic itself, I think even from this very article. Of course, I keep all of this in the archives. Of course, I want to keep all you guys up to date and in the know. But if you have been on the channel, you already know that this level of bias has happened. And as we are seeing unfolding in the last 2 weeks, specifically how the FBI was involved, and, of course, we've always known about Google's interference and its activities to suppress Donald Trump. And, of course, the many times that we have covered the negativity that Donald Trump received versus other presidents. So these are not anything unusual. And, of course, as we talked about last week, X, again, their favorite word, this is why I like to point this out, X-Twitter exec blows the whistle, alleging reckless and negligent cybersecurity policies. And I wanted to mention here that, of course, we also have the influence there, the Twitterverse, the Twitterazzi, as we call them, in their bubble. And then you have the international influence as well, which I didn't really touch on, of course, because they do allow for Chinese and other adversary-type nations to be on Twitter and speaking, which is quite interesting because the main social media networks are blocked in China. China has its own services, its own platforms that it uses. So it's kind of amusing and entertaining, but not surprising to anyone here in the States that the CCP blocks all of it, but they are able to be on Twitter. They are able to be influential. They're able to use their soft power there on Twitter. And, of course, we could cover a whole other line on Twitter when it comes to Elon Musk, which came out today. But As you know, we go even further back, guys, all the way to May 9th of 2016. Former Facebook workers, we routinely suppressed conservative news. That's right, we covered this story as well from Gizmodo. All the way back in 2016. Well, we didn't cover it in 2016. We covered it in 2018, so it was like 2 years later. But I keep all this stuff in archive so you guys can see we're bringing and putting the pieces together. So when President Trump comes out and says that he is concerned about the activities of Google and other platforms because there is a bias towards them, well, it's because there is a bias towards them. This is no mystery. Think about how many times we have seen Zuckerberg and Pichai and even former CEO of Twitter there in Capitol Hill, Jack Dorsey. We've seen them there on Capitol Hill in front of these committees where they have to answer for levels of bias, Section 230, and these sorts of things. So this is no mystery. Here's why. Of course, they always have to tell us why, as opposed to allowing us to figure it out for ourselves. But of course, if you are a member of the BuzWeaver channel, a subscriber, a follower, a fan of the show, then you know you guys are on the cutting edge. And I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support here on the channel as we cover these stories. The last few videos that I have done have been, has no ads on them. Because they have been demonetized, I guess is what we typically say, but what it is limited ads. But it's essentially, when they say limited ads, that's next to no ads. But nonetheless, guys, your support is always appreciated. Your like, your shares, and your comments really do have an impact. And of course, all of you guys following on BitChute, Rumble, DTube, Odyssey, you guys have been amazing. Thank you for the support there. And that's what I have for you guys today, and appearing there on the screen for all of you there on YouTube. That would be the channel icon appearing there. You can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. That way you know when there's content here on the channel. And I will see you guys in the next video.